Welcome to the Fancy Cakery. Welcome to my kitchen. It's Christmas time and we are going to make a delicious rum cake. And we are going to grease our little mini bunt pans with some shortening and flour it with flour. You could use the nonstick spray, but I don't know if I really trust it. So I'd rather do it that way and be sure that everything that comes out whole in one piece. Because it's nothing worse than doing all that work and your cake not coming out. And we are going to cream a half a cup of butter, 2 cups of sugar, and a half a cup of vegetable oil, or you could use canola oil. That's going to whip until it's nice and fluffy, and it's going to be creamy and just beautiful, almost like whipped cream. While that's whipping, we're going to take our 3 cups of flour and 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and we're going to make sure and sift that together very well so we could get a lighter, fluffier cake. While that's continuing to whip and just look beautiful and creamy, we're going to get our 3 large eggs ready, one by one, checking for shells. Nobody wants to eat any shells. And scraping down our bowl, because you know there's always butter and sugar stuck to the bottom, and we need to make sure that gets incorporated good before we start adding our eggs one by one. And these are room temperature eggs, and don't forget, if you forgot to take it out of the fridge, just put them in warm water for a while until they come to room temperature. That'll be just fine. And again, we're scraping down our bowl. It's very important to do this step by step because you want to make sure everything is mixed together very well. Yes, I forgot to buy buttermilk, but don't worry, you can make buttermilk. All I'm using is a cup of evaporated milk with a tablespoon of lemon juice. If you don't have lemon juice, use vinegar. If you don't have vinegar, use apple cider vinegar. If you don't have apple cider vinegar or regular vinegar, use lime. And see, it just takes a few seconds and it's nice and thick and buttery. Like buttermilk. It is buttermilk. 2 teaspoons of vanilla goes in. And now we're going to alternate our flour and our baking powder, not soda, baking powder. We're going to alternate that with our buttermilk until our mixture comes together. And then we'll get ready for the good stuff. And you can use any dark rum you want. You could use light rum if you don't have any dark rum. I'm using Bacardi. That's my favorite. And we're going to do a 3/4 cup of dark rum. And this is the last thing we're going to put in. And we're just going to mix that in until it's nice and incorporated. We're going to scrape down again, of course, just to make sure it's all mixed together. Give it another little whip. And then we'll be ready to put these into our bunt pans. Well, actually, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I always taste my batter before I put it in my pans. Just suppose if you miss something or something ain't right or something is off, you gotta taste it. And this one is perfect. And I'm just gonna put a little whole nuts. I'm using a mixture of chopped pecans and walnuts, and I'm gonna make sure put them nice to the bottom and fill up all my little bunt pans, and I'm gonna put them in a preheated oven at 325, and they're gonna bake for about 55 to 65 minutes, depending. And you're going to keep a really good eye on them. And when a toothpick or a big stick, what I'm using, comes out clean, or they spring back, then, you know, they're ready. And you don't want to overdo it because you don't want to burn those nuts to the bottom. And I always put them on a cooling rack so the underneath can cool. And the best part of a rum cake is the butter rum sauce. We're going to take a 1/4 cup of butter, a 1/2 cup of sugar, and a 1/2 cup of water. And we're going to let that come to a boil, and we're going to slow simmer it until it's nice and incorporated and the sugar is thoroughly melted. Does sugar melt? Yes, dissolve, melt. Yeah, that's what I meant to say, dissolve. And now that that is bubbling and simmering, we're going to keep it on low heat. We're going to keep stirring, and we're just going to let it reduce slightly. While that's reducing and boiling, we're just going to poke holes. You angry that day, you got somebody that made you mad, you just start poking them holes. And it don't matter how much you do. The more the merrier. Just keep poking. Poke, 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 poke. You can't really do too much, to be honest. And I know home growing up, plenty of people just use knives, steak knives. So you don't have to use little toothpicks. You can use what you got. And then not when the heat is too high. If you put in the rum when the heat is too high, it's going to sizzle and boil over and you're going to have a mess. So you want to make sure it's off the stove or on a very low heat, and you're going to add 1/2 cup of rum. If you want to add 3/4, nobody going to beat you up. You add 3/4. And I'm keeping mine thin right now, like a simple syrup, and I'm just going to drizzle it. My cakes are warmed. They're not cold or room temperature, but they are warm. They've been out of the oven for about 1.5 hours. Because if you put the glaze on a hot cake, it's going to turn gummy. So I let my cakes cool, and I'm using this, like I said, like a simple syrup, and I'm just going to let that drizzle. And then I'm going to thicken the syrup, and I'm going to just put the finishing touch on it and put the rest on it, and it's so delicious. You have to try this. Santa Claus will love you. And please subscribe, and please like and comment, because I want to know that you love my video. I want to know what you want to see next. And I hope you have the merriest, happiest Christmas. And whatever you do, bakers, don't ever stop baking.